All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the January 12th, 2026 meeting of the Riverfront Advisory Committee. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, would open the floor for any public comment. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. So agenda item number 3, review and approval of the minutes. Does anyone have any questions, comments, proposed edits to the minutes as written?
No,
I don't.
Yeah.
I'll move it that we approve them.
Okay.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, a few items to talk about today. So I'll start with the smaller administrative item. So I had sent everyone maybe like a week ago the draft of the committee's annual report for the town's report that's due this Thursday. I don't know if anyone had a chance to read it yet. Any proposed additions, edits?
The first sentence, I think it had the members of the Riverfront Committee from 2024.
Oh, does it have an older
Yeah, an older
Yeah.
introduction. So maybe
And I
just
read right over that.
You and me both.
it's hard. Yeah.
Okay.
I have one suggestion, and I got here a little early, chatted with Bart about it, just
Yeah.
so.
Suggest the way.
Well, for the goals, I think what we're talking about is not master plan development, because that's almost done as a goal. And I'll use Bart's verbiage, because he's better at it than I am, but he said you could call it a comprehensive riverfront development plan or something, but what we're working on is not the master plan, it's something else. And
I like that, actually. All right. Comprehensive riverfront development plan. No, I think that's good because I've actually kind of been mentally struggling with like the terminology of that and trying to differentiate it from the master plan process the town just worked through. So
Yeah, it encompasses a lot of things that we can be involved in, but you don't have to get into the weeds for this, but it tells people what we're working on.
okay. And you said it was like the opening sentence, like right.
Yeah, it's
right
like at the very,
start.
do you have it right?
I didn't bring a copy of the only
Yeah.
thing.
I just read mine.
In 2024?
Oh yeah, literally the second word. Alright. Okay. Yeah, I can make those two edits. Any other thoughts, additions? I always feel like we're both, I don't know. I always feel like we're not saying all that much, but I don't know if it has to say any more than it already does. So like, no one's gonna hurt my feelings if we want to change it more substantially, I guess.
You know, I think it's good to be future focused in terms of goals. As I've said before, I think, you know, the through the activities of this committee, the whole vision, not just the activities of the committee, the activities of the planner, the activities of a lot of people, so I'm not saying that. But we had the vision of what we're hoping to accomplish at the end of this process has changed a lot, because there's a lot of things that we understand better. And
I agree.
and that, there's a lot of work that's gone into getting from where we were 3 or 4 years ago to now. But I'm not sure this is the place to make that statement. But
Yeah. No, I kind of agree. That's sort of how I viewed it as well. You know, when I revisit it for that 1 hour every year, is like, okay, what can I summarize in 2 paragraphs that actually encapsulates some of the more tangible things that were done, but maybe equally important, what are we looking at next year?
yeah.
Because hopefully that opens the door if anyone is interested in hearing more, getting more involved, to use that as the launch point.
Right.
All right, I will make those 2 edits then and submit to Wendy this week, so we can stay in her good graces. So when we were here last time, we talked about us formally going in front of Conservation Commission to talk about a transfer, like a working towards officially transferring the stewardship of Schanda Park from the Conservation Commission to the town. The notes were right. We had originally talked about doing that on December 11th, so leave it as is for the notes part. But Bart and I didn't go in December. We went last Thursday, January 8th. Overall, I mean, I'll kind of give Bart a chance to talk after me too if he wants to. I think they were very receptive to the idea of that. Effectively, I would say 2 actions came out of that for them. I think they're going to look to draft a town council resolution that they would vote on likely in March at the Conservation Commission. That would eventually end up at town council, Joe, effectively to overturn the text of the 2005 town council resolution that names them as the primary steward of the park. The only reason for the lag is I think a couple folks on their commission are going to be out in February, and they just wanted everybody to be able to speak to that and to vote on it when it comes up.
It's turning it over to the town, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously no text available for what exactly it would gonna say, and then, you know, I assume you guys would be able to comment on it if there's anything you wanted to change, but the functional intent of it would be to make a new resolution to basically overwrite the 2005 one, at which point, you know, Schanda Park would be under the stewardship of the town of Newmarket, not specifically the Conservation Commission.
And was it understood, is anybody, Bart, is Public Works planning on taking this on then?
Yeah, they basically do already. So really comes down to permitting, events down there. Then that'd be, to be determined who that entity is. But it would no longer go through the Conservation Commission. I don't want to steal your thunder if you have anything else, but so just one more thing. There was a kind of discussion on the Riverfront Advisory Committee as well. Like right now, Sam is technically the Conservation Commission rep, and they appreciate Sam's work and dedication to this committee. And so if they were to make a resolution to make that transfer, they still won't be part of the conservation, but the understanding that they want a Conservation Commission member on the committee. So they would recommend a change to the composition of this committee to be from 5 to 7. So we have 2 at large, or maybe 3. I'm not sure what it is right now, but just add more. It's becoming more complicated, not complicated, but your charge has been expanded, it seems like, a little bit. So it's maybe time to revisit what that should be.
So Joe,
I know this kind of dovetails well for you, Joe.
Dovetails very well into this conversation. So just before we start talking about that, and any just final questions or thoughts about the Conservation Commission thing, basically, I think to just put a bow on that conversation, it's currently in. They appear to be in favor, if not unanimous, at least majority in favor of that move.
Correct.
It's in their court to draft a resolution that will happen this spring that will then make its way to town council. So
Correct.
if we're all set with that piece, then yeah, the next piece is the overall group composition and things like that. And my personal feeling on that concept is, when I was on the commission when this committee was formed and up until 2024, so I technically do fill their spot. If their request or asking price for the stewardship transfer is potentially to have an actual seated representative that's also on the commission, that seems very reasonable to me. To keep an odd number, I think the logical thing would be to move to 7 instead of 6. And then I think, again, technically, as we're talking administrative things, I would take one of the new at-large spots and vacate the Conservation Commission rep spot for them. So any initial questions on the 7 to 5 thing? And then we'll open up kind of what you had emailed about.
So are you saying 2 or 3 Conservation Commission representatives on?
Just one Conservation Commission rep.
Okay.
We would add 2 more spots to the committee.
Okay.
So I would take 1 spot, free that spot up for them, and then there would technically be another open seat if somebody else has a burning desire to join the committee.
Because I think the current, if I read Joe's email correctly, the current is a town councilor, someone from the Conservation Commission, which would be you and Joe, and then 3 at large.
Correct.
Okay, so we're going to go to 1, and 5 at
And
large.
5.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, or it could be, if it's not at large, maybe it's another board, maybe it's planning board or someone else.
Or economic.
Yeah, or economic, yeah. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about exactly
Okay.
what that is. But
Okay.
so I'll kind of cede the floor to you now to kind of, that's why I thought the timing of this actually worked out pretty well. So, so what did you can you summarize the email you had sent, kind of talking about potentially changing a few things?
Yeah, somebody asked me, about the existing Economic Development Committee, and my response was, yeah, I know we sort of have one defined, but I don't think they've done anything in a number of years. I did ask Stephen, but I haven't heard back yet from them what the current situation is. But anyway, I don't know. I feel that we kind of tied in with the downtown, the riverfront development, but we're tied in with the downtown and the mill properties, and vice versa. What benefits them also benefits the downtown. So I was thinking we could potentially expand our scope, or just a little bit, to include economic development, or working with the business association, however we want to do it. I just want to toss that out. I think we're kind of tied in on the economic side, and I'd like to, make it official that we do that.
Well, then I also just want to ask a question of you, Joe. I recall looking at a newsletter that the town had sent after the purchase of the Creighton Street property, and there was a comment in there that they were looking to form a committee of people who would be interested to see where they wanted that property to go. So does that mean that is no longer going to be?
I would volunteer us to do that. I would
Okay.
think it'd be kind of, I don't know, kind of dumb to have another committee that's responsible for doing that, and we're doing something
Okay.
else, so,
Okay, yeah, I thought that was, I didn't know
the
what.
news. Does anybody know the news? I don't remember seeing that.
Oh, this was before the holidays.
I
It
get
was-
the town newsletter that comes out on Friday.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it is.
No, it wasn't in this. It was probably,
Facebook page or something?
no, it was the town newsletter that came, and I was just kind of looking through it and enlarging, and it was one of the lead articles in the newsletter was the purchase of the Creighton Street property, and there was just a little blip on the side. They're looking for volunteers, or for the formation of a committee to develop, to look into the development of that area. So I didn't know whether the town was looking at.
I've
I
not
agree.
heard
I think
any
it's-
mention of another
Okay.
committee. I know, really kind of like Steve and Bart and Lindsay are the ones that kind of,
Mhm.
and Amy as well,
Mhm,
the ones
mhm.
deciding what they're gonna do.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so nothing concrete has happened.
Okay,
So we're still looking to develop a kind of administrative approach to this stuff.
okay.
Joe, I just want to ask you, since we talked about how we were going to change the Riverfront Advisory Committee to the town report, if you think of the verbiage that could be represented in Bart's language of comprehensive riverfront development plan, because I think, and you definitely could have input from NBA. A lot of it is talking about the whole recreational, how it ties into the downtown. I think that's a pretty good amount of work in that. And the old EDC, that's what I was mentioning before. The old EDC the way I understood it back when I was on the council, they were people that were really trying to understand how you could bring in large commercial projects to the town. And I don't think that's anything like what you're interested in.
No, I think that's beyond the scope of what I would do, like the industrial center. I don't think that's our responsibility, but certainly, from, a ecology point of view, and, anything related to the riverfront and the, in the downtown area, I think, and maybe even a little bit beyond the downtown, going out towards Rumors, that area, and maybe going south a little bit too. But yeah, I don't see us being responsible for like the industrial center or something like that.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I think that it's definitely the downtown is very close to the riverfront, so that, to me, that all connects. And I'm interested, but not to say that the thing I'm always interested in how all the waterfront in Newmarket is going to be tied into the section of riverfront we're interested in. But I think for this committee, I don't mind the idea of what you're saying, but I don't want to get diluted from the amount of work that a small committee has to do.
All right, so two things. One of the ones I brought up, and certainly I think any development or whatever we do with the land that they just purchased, I think having another committee is kind of dumb to do that. That we should be involved in that, and it fits in with what Bart says. The other thing that kind of brought this about was there's a rule or an RSA that basically says if the towns want to, kind of control gambling, okay, games of chance in their town, then you have to do a certain resolution, okay? So, so that kind of got it going. Well, what if Rumors wanted to create a poker room or something, or, you know, or they wanted to stick Keno into the Circle K, start offering Keno there or something like that. So that's got that part going, discussion going, okay? And that led to, well, do we have an economic, whose responsibility is that for determining whether Rumors could have a poker room or something like that, and led to the question about economic development, and you know, I think like we're tied with the downtown and maybe some of the other areas of town, that it should be us.
Okay, now that helps to better, I guess, kind of understand some of the background, like contextual stuff of it. I mean, I guess it's open for like discussion. I mean, like, I'm kind of of two minds. I mean, obviously as we're starting about talking about going to 7 members and maybe like getting more involved with helping the town, you know, somewhat helping the town guide, you know, a much larger infrastructure project. Like, clearly the scope is like increasing to a degree, but like for that specific example, I know that's just one, but it's like, I don't know anything about that. Like, I don't know how I would possibly advise the town like adequately about it. That's just my personal feeling, but like,
And yeah, and I kind of am the same thing, two minds. Like the examples you brought up, Joe, were gambling, and how does that, you know, kind of relate to us with Riverfront? You know,
Well, the way the wording is, my understanding of the wording is, any premise that in the town could potentially apply for a license to do games of chance. So you could have somebody maybe establish something in the middle that does Keno, or
does the American Legion already have machines?
the American Legion does, and I believe the Polish Club does. I don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
But that's usually by a referendum that all those Keno came in.
Yeah,
State
I was
law
gonna say
created
the town- yeah,
referendum
right.
process.
Yeah,
It's a town referendum vote.
yeah,
I think that's
out of our league.
out of
But those are also private spaces and private clubs, though, too.
yeah.
So do they? I mean, they're not open to the public per se.
Okay, so I've asked Steve, there's a licensing committee.
Okay.
Which is Steve, the chief of police, and the town council chair. I've
Okay.
asked them to actually take a look at it and say, well, you know, what does this mean? When I started looking at the RSA about gambling and what, you know, their definition of a game of chance, but they take slot machines and they have a whole different section for slot machines.
Oh, okay.
So the way they define it. So I've asked them to take a look at, say, again, what does this mean? It seems to me that the licensing committee would be the one that would be really responsible for approving gambling in town. Okay? But there are other economic things that we might have some say in. Say somebody wanted to put a Dollar General in the mill or something, or some downtown, you know, nothing specifically against Dollar General, but I would rather personally see things in town that enhance Newmarket as opposed to don't.
Well, I think the language Bart suggested that we're putting in the annual report gives us a wide enough scope to talk about the things that will be most helpful over the next year.
So in my note that I said, you know, we should change to be from more than an ad hoc committee to be Riverfront, and I kind of like the idea of a committee that develops comprehensive plans and oversight of the downtown Riverfront and downtown economic, you know, how we get worded, but that, you know, that kind of covers it, or to me makes it nice and broad, what our responsibilities would be.
Has there been any thought? I'm sorry. Has there been any thought about reestablishing the economic committee?
I
mean,
no,
is No,
Again,
okay.
I asked Stephen Bard, but,
Okay.
you know, what the status is. And
So, not in its current composition.
Okay.
What has been, what I proposed to the planning board to consider, and they're gonna talk about, discuss it, maybe make a decision tomorrow, is establishing a long-range planning committee, which will have a lot of different charges in that. So, I think that might be a good slot for it. But again, I'll have more information at the next meeting if it's going to be a subcommittee from the planning board or an actual town council creation.
This is the long-range planning?
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't see it as being like a full-time committee meeting all the time. To me personally, it sounds like a subcommittee of the planning board would be better for like a more a town-wide type of thing. That's my personal opinion, but
Yeah.
stuff related to, like I say, the downtown and
Well, I think you are on something because you're more specific to the riverfront. So the way I kind of imagine this, we have kind of layers of development. What we're doing now is kind of our infrastructure layer. I think right now we're planning for it. As we're planning for, we're creating these spaces for uses to come to and populate. So, and they can happen in parallel. But I can see a benefit in discussing it. Maybe kind of having these higher level discussions. What do we want here? What kind of uses we want in the downtown? What do we want to promote? And from here, make recommendations to other committees. Do we want to have these types of uses, and how do we achieve that? So, yeah, I think we can do that here if we want to in this specific geographic area. And also be more proactive in reaching out to the current property owners and businesses as well to see how we could make their lives easier and potential areas of growth for their businesses, or how can we help them. So that's a couple ways maybe approach it. I don't have the answer. Maybe it's something else completely different that we discover during discussions.
I guess my question would be, what would be the benefit of having it here rather than in some other committee that may have more background, more access to the background of information? What's the advantage of having it here rather than, say, in an economic development committee or the planning committee or something like that? What's the advantage of it being here?
So from my perspective, okay, so what happens in like the downtown area, Mills and some of the surrounding property, impacts the riverfront, right, and vice versa. And fine, if there's another committee that's responsible for, bringing in businesses or whatever into the downtown, that might impact the riverfront, should we not be involved in it? We should keep our fingers in the pie, I guess, type of thing.
Well, I think we still can. Again, I know we're still talking one specific thing, but if that's something that is coming up at the town council level and being considered, and then they look to committees to comment, then wouldn't we still have the opportunity to say we don't think that's consistent with the master plan elements that we're trying to promote in this area? So
my thinking is, by the time it gets to the town council, I mean, it's more or less all done, type of thing.
So I can make a note, or maybe officially we do change some charges of this committee. Anything that's going to impact the riverfront that comes through this committee, so there's a recommendation, from you all, at least you have a say. Or if you want to recommend something, then we can, vice versa.
But that's through you, from the planning board side, or?
It'd be anything, not just planning board, anything.
Right?
Yeah, so I think we can internally have that on our checklist as any, we establish that, geographic area, and there's anything from a, zoning or infrastructure or whatnot. aspect that's going to impact that area, we come here to say, hey, this is happening. Do you have any comments? And then go from there.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
I think that makes sense.
That may kind of achieve that for all sense and purposes, is just to allow other committees or commissions to kind of comment on these things before they make it to town council, where you guys probably are being asked to kind of make a decision at the time. That might be a way of just kind of getting that input as it becomes relevant.
Exactly. So it's more of an institutional amendment that we make, internally.
There's a question that I've thought about in different contexts, but I'll just put it out there, and if it has any relationship to this. If you think about, the waterfront changing and redeveloping, it comes closer to what you're talking. I always think it's really nice if you have a downtown area like this that has a viewpoint that's kind of, a signature viewpoint like the waterfront is for us. It's too bad there isn't a place for a restaurant. We used to have Joyce's Kitchen, although it didn't really look out at the water. And if there's any way you can, as the waterfront is developed, make room for new, I'm not trying to compete with existing restaurants, and I love the ones that are in the town already. But I think it would be great to find a way that would foster that kind of a business coming into, I don't know where or how, but that kind of thing is something that's part and parcel of what we're trying to do with the riverfront, and would be great for the area that we're talking.
Yeah, I think we talked about this placemaking. So how do we make these spots within the downtown area more enjoyable, and how do you create more connections with the river? And I think there's a lot of opportunity. It's just, right now it's occupied by other things. It's other buildings. So it doesn't mean our built infrastructure can't change, and it doesn't mean it could change according to what the community wants. Just for example, there's been a lot of conversation about the post office. What does that become? What are the opportunities there to create those vistas, those public spaces to make more connection with the downtown and the riverfront? Also, our newly acquired property. Are there any opportunities there? So I think so. So it's just we just have to allow for things to unfold, opportunities to come up, and then again have that plan in place. Like, when something does come up, then we know exactly what we want, or at least for the most part. So I think it's there.
Yeah. Well, I think an example of that was, I'm not sure that it did or didn't help, but we'd had a lot of conversations before the recent property became available. The Riverfront Committee has been meeting for several years, and we talked about, it's too bad we didn't have a way to go down there.
You have that 40 feet.
Have that 40 feet.
Yeah.
So that created a readiness that might have not existed otherwise, or, it helped create the opportunity. Mm-hmm. So there's value in having conversations, placeholders, like you said, so that, you can start to have a vision, and you don't know how you'd get there now, but at least you know this is part of what you'd like it to be at the end of the process. So, in that sense, I agree with you, Joe.
Well, Bob brought up a great example. What if the post office were to become available now? Should we have some kind of, at least be aware or have some kind of say in what goes in there, as opposed, say they wanted to stick another Dollar General there?
I think if that was going to happen, a lot of people will have say. So I wouldn't worry about that, Joe.
We don't get unilateral.
That's kind of like what I'm getting at. Is
Yeah.
The area down here? Should we have some kind of say in that?
And I think you will. I mean, again, if that's codified in your charge, or Lungs, I'm here, Lindsay's here. We'll make sure that you guys are participating, because this is the area. This is why this committee exists. So, maybe it's just that we can figure out what to do. If it's like a codification of it, or some kind of understanding, or here's when we do want to comment. we can make that happen. So I'm not too worried about that. We'll definitely include you. We want to include you in this process.
Heck, Joe, you're the town councilor.
Yeah.
Just got all the ins.
No, I don't.
Well, it's like I think our actual written charter is like beautifully vague. Of like I think it kind of allows a lot of potential to comment, but also a lot of potential to not comment. Like I do think it kind of leaves at our discretion if we think there's something worth saying. So I guess administratively, I'm not really sure like if there's any true meaning to like the ad hoc part of this. Like that's beyond my knowledge or understanding if that like formally changes anything that we do or can do. But in terms of like how the actual charter is, I think it already gives us that flexibility to be or get involved if we want. Again, just my personal take. I don't want to speak for everyone. But
Does the ad hoc have to stay? What does it mean even?
I feel ad hoc means, to me, it's temporary.
Yeah.
So, my understanding of Latin. So, maybe it would be better to have this as a permanent committee.
especially if we're thinking we're on like potentially another 5-year path to do something, and it might be for a decade. Like, but then again, if it doesn't matter, then who
I think,
cares?
I just think at the time is, when this was created, is like, all right, we need someone, we need a body to discuss the riverfront. We don't know what, but we're going to create it. So here's this ad hoc committee, and it has grown. So to something more mature, and there's more vision and direction now that I think warrants a permanent committee. So I think the town values the committee and all the investments it's made in the riverfront over the years. So I think having my opinion, having a permanent body to have these discussions.
The Economic Development Commission. It was in place for quite a while, and then it kind of went away. But they didn't call it an ad hoc EDC,
Right.
and it kind of, a lot of the topics that it was really energized to talk about have morphed, let's say.
Yeah.
And so it kind of, that's what led it to, it ran out of steam on that. And if the riverfront was all spiffy at some future point, and it was really more maintenance than reimagining it, even though we maybe call the riverfront committee, it may not need to exist anymore at that point. There may be some, but that's I think that's quite a ways in the future. So
I think it's also important too that now that we have an actual chapter in the master plan, so we're not a temporary committee. And I also think we had discussed during the pre-budgetary process, do we, ask to have funds, establish a fund to fund, for the committee to move forward on things as well. So, that shows more permanence.
So, are we safe to say, or is it safe for me to say, that we would like to change the name of this committee from ad hoc to basically a Riverfront Advisory Committee? In our charter is something to the effect that we develop and oversee the comprehensive plan for the riverfront, and do we say anything about the downtown area as well? Or do we just say leave it at riverfront?
Well, I feel the downtown is the riverfront.
In terms of right now,
Yeah.
After the Main Street redevelopment, like that probably is the most doable space. I guess, again, just speaking personally, I don't think we necessarily have to change what the actual written charter
Well, it
says.
says work to produce a feasibility study on boat ramp rehabilitation, seawall repair, public access enhancements, and other items regarding Newmarket waterfront improvements.
Yeah.
I
So,
like the term
is it-
comprehensive plan. Covers more.
Is what you're getting at is that the definition has been really strictly that property that touches the water, and you want it to extend across Main Street over to the business section. Is that what you're getting at?
I'm asking, do we need to include that in do we need to change anything in the charter, first of all? And then, if we do change something in the charter, do we need to expand the scope beyond just the riverfront?
Or are you saying, is the purpose of changing the charter so that we can expand it?
Well, it
Well,
sounds-
I would personally think we would want to change the charter to be more up to date with what we're doing, okay? Produce a feasibility study on boat ramp rehabilitation, to take that out, and if you say a comprehensive riverfront plan or whatever, overseeing development and implementation of it, that covers that, as well as, gives us a broader authority to expand down past Schanda into the area behind the water treatment plant there.
Okay, but still on the property where the water actually touches, not
Yeah,
the business
I
on
want
the
to
other
go
side of
beyond
the-
just the
on the other side
riverfront
of 108.
itself.
I almost feel too that maybe the town should relook at establishing an economic development committee, especially with the possibility of the vacated post office coming at some point, and, we
Well,
have
we
the
don't
savings
know.
bank.
We don't know that.
Exactly, but, and with the savings bank building empty, maybe that an economic committee could help foster some relationships to get some businesses in there of some sort. I don't know,
So-
just a thought.
Yeah,
So-
again, that's kind of a good point. The bank there is that,
That's been empty for a while, and I don't, yeah.
I
And
can't
then-
see us going out and trying to get people to, to bring people into there, but
Mhm.
we certainly want to have some kind of idea that it's going in, and I guess that, again, that gets back to Bart.
Mhm.
Bart would certainly
Yeah.
keep us informed.
But
But, yeah, the more I think about it, an economic development is, I agree, it's probably beyond the scope of what we should do or want to do.
But I also like I also like the idea, though, of the long-range planning committee, and I don't think it needs to be, as Bart mentioned, a monthly meeting, but, maybe something quarterly that representatives from arts and, the arts and tourism and the riverfront and economic development and historical, all of those
Yeah,
groups kind
that's-
of being able to come together quarterly and say, okay, what are you guys working on? What do we see? What are our next thoughts? I don't know, just,
That's probably a better idea. That's a,
Yeah, and I kind of agree with, I think what you were saying, Sam, is we have quite a bit of scope in this language that we're using now for the chapter, and I don't think we have to be a lot more specific. It's pretty
Yeah.
close to what we've understood.
I don't think it's prevented us from doing anything or commenting on anything that we have. I mean, the only thing I would say potentially is like revisiting, potentially removing ad hoc, and I'll look to you guys if the town even does it. But to me, all it does is it just signals an actual intention that this is a thing that might exist for a while. I mean, we're like 5 years in, and if we're gearing up to do a minimum of 5 more, like, it might just show some intent for seriousness, I guess.
Because most people don't say ad hoc most of the time anyway, so
Yeah.
I'm all for taking the ad hoc out if it can be done. And I think that's probably, I think our goals with the change we've made, the goals state what we're trying to do. And I think we in amongst that, one of the things we said at our November meeting is to get ready. You've got all this infrastructure that's happening, and in parallel to that, we want to continue the public envisioning of what the riverfront's going to look like and what the usage aspects are going to look like, because the infrastructure is going to be planned out according to the infrastructure's needs. But it would be very good to know more about, with more public input and, some version of smaller version of the charrette perhaps, but to start to lay out more of a vision of what this can be so that people can comment on it, so that that's taking place in parallel. That's quite a bit of work. And yes, it's going to be a long time before the shovel hits on that, but it's a lot of work to get to get the public imagining of what the spaces will work like to match the rate at which the infrastructure stuff is going to happen. So I think that's where I envision us having a lot to do and trying to find, not just increase the size of this committee, but bring public comment more into it. And that would be enough for me.
Hold that thought for like 1 second, because I actually think it's relevant to something else that I would put on the agenda today. But I guess to kind of put a bow on the charter thing, what would be needed to like formally advance to like 5 to 7 concepts?
A resolution.
We would make a vote at this committee level to you to bring to town council to change the number of people. Okay.
And would that be the time to reword our charter as well? Yes.
I'd
Yes.
probably do it as 2 different things.
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, you probably do 1 or 2.
One's easier.
Yeah.
I mean, other than like a semantics thing, like, I don't know, I'm looking to like our actual town staff, like, is there any, is ad hoc, dropping the ad hoc just like a,
Yeah, I mean,
is it pointless? Like, I don't know, let's be honest.
Typically there's a sunset. I'm not sure if there was a sunset in this when you were all established. But, so,
Do you have the original?
I don't have it in front of me. Yeah.
We do have it going back to?
Oh, yeah, I'll definitely find it. Yeah.
When
I
it was
can see-
created?
Yeah.
We find it, so that I can reference that, saying, when it was created by the town council, blah, 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 blah.
Yep. Yeah, and I think we also maybe before, if you were to make that recommendation, we draft something together.
Yeah.
Say, all right, this is what we want our charge to be as well, if we want to go down that path, and then just, have the whole package for them to vote on.
Yeah, I may kind of put that as a February item for us to talk about, and maybe we can vote on something February to have you bring up as to, what changes we actually want to put forward.
So I did a resolution for the Energy and Environment Committee to expand that to include somebody from the planning board and another member at large. So, I've done that before.
Okay.
I can draft that part. We want to change the name of the committee from the Riverfront, from the ad hoc Riverfront, just to keep it the Riverfront Advisory Committee.
Yeah, if we weren't talking about making like other changes, I'd say it doesn't matter, but if we're already potentially changing it,
I would do that, because Bart said ad hoc implies temporary.
Yeah, and
I know it's been here.
it's been here for 5 years, and I think the intent is that it's here for at least another 5, bare minimum. So
And we don't want to change the wording of what it currently does.
I'm still fine with it, again, just speaking for myself, but I don't think it's prevented us from doing anything that we've already done. So, like, that could be something that, like, we can discuss, too, with the town of, like, is there any value that they see to potentially changing it? But I feel like it's open-ended enough that it allows us to comment on the things that we've been doing anyway.
Or we can all just give some thought and just email some ideas or discuss it
exactly.
in February.
Like, I think it's open for discussion further. But yeah. Okay. All right, so I think the thing that I want to bring up today kind of ties into what you just hit on with public participation, looking for those opportunities. So I had mentioned at our last meeting that the PTA was holding like an outdoor day or whatever, which I think is Saturday, March 7th, like 95% sure that's the date. I'd gotten another message about that. But like as we look for opportunities, maybe like more natural opportunities where there's already something going on, and we can also use it as a, hey, there's stuff happening too. like that would be one of those events that we could maybe, do an hour down there. Especially I like the March 7th time frame because it would potentially give us an opportunity to talk to more of like the adults in attendance about the warrant articles the town's pushing for the area, or just, I don't know, we all know like not a ton of people show up for deliberative session, so like it would be another opportunity to talk about the park and what's going on down there. The only thing that I'm not sure about is like how you tie that into being at all interesting for children. That's not really my thing. I barely entertain my children, so like, I mean, do we have any ideas? Do we want to try to put together something?
Well, I think some of this may have, because I've looked at it, I've pointed people to go through the report that came out of the charrette.
Yeah.
But I think some of the ideas that are in there are still just ideas. But it might be nice to have some kind of a format, I don't know, poster board, something that when you go to a meeting like that, just gives people, here's an idea, where it's not been decided, but these are things that might kind of show people the area we're talking about, some idea of what that might mean going forward. I think it would be nice to that if we were trying to make a document that did that, it might help us define what are the things that we're advising about. What are we talking about? What if you did have the raised area as bridging Moonlight Brook? How would it work into how you use that area? What would the area that the town is going to own that's on the other side of that bridge, for the sake of language, look like?
I think a concern would be, if parents are going to be there with their children, the focus is, it's going to be hard to speak to the parents about those things when they're trying to mind their children.
Yes.
So, and I sometimes feel that the best way for that is to have like hands-on activities for the kids, like touch things that are down there and look at things and, show just the importance of the river, sort of a thing. Like, what do you think is in this river? Do we have whales? Probably no, because, they're not, they're too big to be here. But what sort of fish do we have? Or what kind of birds do you see? Or what have we seen? Sort of a thing. So, I mean, like the other day, the eagle was going up and down the river. It was just amazing. And, it's just one of those things that, the bald eagle's on the back of our quarter, it's on our currency, so. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think you engage the kids to get the parents.
I'd have to know more about what they would like our contribution to be there.
Yeah. And you have to think about what March 7th is going to look like.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to have mud. Whether the mud is under 4 inches of ice or 12 inches of snow, it's.
So I think to put that on, like, I know we've talked about, can we naturally try to get, some of our message or involvement out a little bit. Like, this would be a natural opportunity where we're not trying to create our own event.
Yeah.
But I think also the focus of trying to realize, well, it's not just to talk about boring adult stuff. Like, we would kind of need something else. Like, I'm not creative in this way. Like, I'm kind of putting it out there of, like, does anyone have any ideas or would be jazzed to make some sort of activity or tie-in for kids? Because I'm personally, left to my own devices, I would say no, because that sounds scary and I don't know what I'm doing. But, like, I don't want to shoot it down and bow out if someone's like, oh, I know how to entertain kids for 30 minutes, non-structured, and sounds great. Like,
yeah, I guess I don't know enough about what that is.
It's a pretty open edict. They just want people to be outside. And, like, so I think we could talk about anything. Yeah. But again, like, I don't know what I would talk about.
Yeah. Are there members of the Conservation Commission would like to be down there as well? Or?
I really haven't floated that yet.
Okay.
I mean, that is my thought too. Like,
what is the PTA? What is their goal for being down there that day?
they just want to get people outside.
Okay.
Outside in the community.
Yep. Okay.
Because I would think the Conservation Committee with their salamander watches and their frog watches and turtle watches and stuff have
Yeah.
lots of experience with this. These are the kinds of things that we do outside.
Yeah, and I guess
and
I
how to
don't
deal
know if
with
they're
groups of
already
people, yeah.
doing something. Maybe they are. If not, like that could be a tie-in. So, all right, maybe I'll see if we got a little more info or not.
And what time does that start, Sam?
It's 10 to 5.
Okay.
We need to pick a time slot.
Okay.
I figured we would do like an hour somewhere in there.
Well,
And I will be out of town on that
yeah,
day.
and when we would do an hour, what does doing an hour mean?
I mean, I think like we would physically be around for an hour, and if anyone showed up, maybe
Okay.
small activity for the kids, talk to the parents.
Yeah. But if we're there and mostly going to be talking to the parents, I still like the idea, and maybe that's too soon and not ready for us, but we should get ready so that we're prepared, because Amy will on you, if you go to she'll have some of these events where they invite people from committees and stuff. She's always asking for people to be able to say something about what it looks like. I think we could really start to understand more about what we're about if we attempted to answer that question in a way that we could tell people about it. And I think we have some ideas, we know some things, the charrette was something, we need to pull some of that together to start those conversations. Maybe I'm putting it out there because if you put us up as the Riverfront Committee and they start saying, well, what are you guys doing? I'd like to have a cheat sheet that we
talking
all
points.
agree on.
Yeah, I think trying to be cognizant of time. I'll maybe get a little more info, see if we can kind of wait to commit until we understand a little bit more what's going on. To tie into that point, last update, is there any update on our comprehensive riverfront development plan, which I'm going to make a point of calling it right now? Okay, that's fine. I know it's the holidays. I didn't do a whole lot the last 2 months either, so. But I feel like potentially that might eventually be it, as trying to use some of the content or concepts from that
Yeah,
get generated by the town's efforts there.
right. So kind of coming up with an abbreviated version that hits what we want to talk about if we're talking about it.
Okay. So next meeting, we'll talk about potentially what we actually want the charter modifications to be, to take that to Joe. I think that timing works well, if we can kind of do it in that time frame. Again, knowing that Concom's going to vote in March, I think, it'd be a nice gesture to actively be advancing, changing our charter in accordance with their, request. By the time we ask them to vote on that resolution, not just a, trust me, we'll get to it, but like that we're actually doing it. I think people should think about what potentially that other spot is. I don't really want to discuss that like now, but if we're talking about adding 2 spots and one is, effectively at large that, I would likely kind of move into to open up the Concom rep, like, is there another board we think we would like seriously benefit from having regular input or coordination with, or do we want to just leave it at large, or does somebody have a suggestion for that? So just, I don't know, stew on that for a few weeks and just see if there's any thought.
Yeah. And other committees that would like, that a member would like to come to this meeting, that would be
Yeah.
another way of looking at it. Planning board comes to mind, but those people have a lot on their plate, and whether they want to add to it or not.
Yeah, exactly. So I think just open for discussion next time, but think about it in the meantime. And then I had one other just minor thing, but it's not time sensitive at all, so I think we'll just kind of kick that to February too. So second Monday would be February 9th, which seems like a good target since the next week is President's Day, and then 2 weeks after that would be New Hampshire vacation. So.
And February 9 is what's already on the calendar.
And that helps too.
Yep.
So,
I do. Jerry asked about what the status of the master plan was. Can you just give an update?
Yeah. Status is plan board is going through the review right now, so they're doing chapter by chapter. So it's in draft mode still, and they are planning to have their public hearing in April. So they're gonna have a complete final draft in March, and then they'll set the public hearing for April, and that's when they'll have their public hearing.
And before we close down, there was one thing I mentioned before. I mentioned it to Bart, and he said, well, it'd probably be good to mention it here, but just for people's information, the Lamprey River Advisory Committee has already come out against it, and I don't understand it very well. I'm just put it on it. Last week, DES had a hearing in Epping because on the Piscassic River, which flows into our waterway, there's an application that's been in the works for a while. It's a transfer station for solid wastes, and it sits within the zone, the waterfront zone for the area up there. That's where all the property is. So LRAC has come out, Lamprey River Advisory Committee has come out, proposed they want to expand their permit so they can process PCB containing waste there. You know, it's just something to have on your radar or something like that, and I'm just mentioning it here. I'm going to try to get some more information on it.
is it a different site or just expanding what they do at
They
the
want
one
to
already?
expand the site. They want to take in waste from Massachusetts as well as New Hampshire. It's a transfer station. It implies that, but they store it there for a while, and if the LRAC letter is to be, it's the way there's a paragraph in there that describes a lot of waste that's sort of sitting around the landscape anyways. And it's close to the river, so it's.
So it's a transfer station rather than a
Landfill or.
landfill, yeah.
Yeah, it's not that, it's a transfer station. But
What town was that?
Epping, did you say?
it's Epping, and it goes into, what was the other town? Brentwood, is where the property spans both of those. But it's on the Piscassic, and we have a lot of Piscassic here, so.
Does the state have legislation, though, as to what can be close to waterways?
I think I heard something that they're working on that now. Are they?
Do you know, Bart?
I don't know too much. This brought to my attention today, so I imagine they have regulations already, so I'm not sure. It's like Dale was saying, it's been in the works for a while. If they're asking for waivers or whatnot, I'm not sure, so we just have to dive into the details more.
Yeah, I thought there was something about legislation that would prohibit bringing in waste from outside of New Hampshire. And
I think it was
If they
Never
specific
been
to
permit.
sell
Yeah.
a
And I
specific site that they have.
Okay.
didn't write it down because I wasn't anticipating
But
we'd be making.
They may
a
have, expand that to include everything, I don't know.
Okay.
Anyways, just something.
Thanks for bringing that.
Yeah.
Okay. Any final thoughts for the day? All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.